Chapter 25. Jay glanced at the pools of blood that remained by the exit. The bodies being removed were as far as they had gotten in the short few minutes since their rescue. "You're the one who shot those men outside and kept us from being taken, aren't you?" "Yes, I am," Betty answered readily. "I was also able to take care of the team that they left outside the building before they came back with the two of you." Reinette raised her hand, silencing her and stopping them from saying anything more. "Hold on, let us change our current venue before continuing." She turned to the guards holding Betty. "Bring her to my office for now. We'll be along shortly." They nodded and pushed Betty firmly, leading her away from them. Reinette addressed the remaining guards. "Get the rest of this cleaned up as quickly as possible. I'm sure the noise has been reported to the police, and I do not want there to be any evidence left to be found when they come around." She turned from them as they nodded in understanding, focusing her attention on Jay and Lexie once more. "Come, let us join your savior in my office. There is much to be discussed." Walking quickly, she led them through the halls until they were standing in front of the door to her office. One guard was standing in front of the door outside the office, while another was inside next to the door. While a third guard was standing next to a seated Betty. Waving off the guard outside her door, Reinette walked into her office and seated herself behind her desk. "Leave us," she ordered, staring at the two remaining guards. They nodded once and then left through the door without saying anything. Reinette pushed a button on her desk, causing the clear glass walls of her office to frost over. The effect made it so no one could see them inside clearly and would help to keep their conversation private. Opening a drawer of her desk, she withdrew a pack of wipes and tossed them to Jay. "Clean yourself. You have blood all over yourself right now." Lexie took the wipes from his hands and proceeded to clean him as quickly as she could. Her earlier attempts with her sleeve hadn't done as much good as she thought at the time. Reinette waited for her to finish before turning to Betty. "Now tell me who you are and what you are doing here." Betty raised her handcuffed hands before letting them fall into her lap. "I told you already, you can call me Betty, and I'm here for them." She pointed at Jay and Lexie as they finished making sure he was clean. Reinette sighed irritably. "I know that already. You did, after all, tell me that when my men brought you to me. I even watched as you found a sniping perch outside of my bank. I want the truth. Who are you working for, and why have you concerned yourself with these two?" Betty muttered angrily under her breath before she forced the air from her lungs in a heavy rush, calming herself. "I work for the American government. I was recently asked to look into some agents that died here years ago. There has been some new information concerning their last assignment. I was tasked with tracking down anything they might have known before they were killed. Those agents were her parents," Betty told them as she inclined her head towards Lexie. "I'm here specifically because Jay called me earlier to let me know that they would be coming here. I came in case something happened, which it obviously did. Now is it my turn to ask questions?" she asked snidely. "No, you do not get a turn. Until I decide what to do with you, consider yourself a prisoner," Reinette told her coldly. There was a knock on the door. "Come in," Reinette called out in a short but loud voice. One of the guards from earlier entered carrying everything that they had transferred into the bag for Pierre. "Set it here and leave us," Reinette said, moving her chair away from her desk, giving the guard room to maneuver. Reinette returned to her earlier position once he had left. "Now who wants to tell me what these are?" she asked, looking at Lexie specifically. "We don't know for sure," she started, indicating herself and Jay as she spoke. "We hadn't gone through any of those documents before Pierre captured us." "Pierre?" Reinette asked, catching the name. "The name we gave the man who was holding us. We've met him a few times but had no name for him before, so we gave him one," Jay explained as Betty laughed lightly behind them. "They did the same thing for me. They are the ones who gave me the name Betty," she commented lightly, explaining her laughter to Reinette. I understand, and while I know his real name, that works as well as another. He is, or rather was, an operative for the French government. After his actions here today, I do not believe that to be the case any longer. Despite some of the men that were with him also being part of his original team with the government. The operation he was running here was not sanctioned by the French government. Reinette paused as she pushed the objects around on her desk. I believe that we all may be working against the same thing here. Granted, she said as she looked at Lexie and Jay again. Some of us have only started recently and do not know who they are or what they are doing. What are you saying exactly? We're not working against anyone or anything. We just wanted to find that information and stay alive. Jay told them as he tapped the edge of Reinette's desk, indicating the information he was referring to. This is actually part of what I am referring to, although before I say anything more, I need assurances from the both of you that nothing that has happened here today, and nothing that we have or will say will be told to anyone else. Ever. Reinette's tone was firm as she spoke. Jay and Lexie looked at each other, both trying to guess what the other was thinking without talking. I don't see as to how we have any choice but to agree with your demands if we want to find out what is going on, Lexie told her after a moment. Reinette turned to Jay. And you, are you also in agreement? She spoke for both of us, Jay answered firmly. Very well, as you guessed earlier, Jay, this is not a normal bank. In actuality, this bank is part of a much larger organization that supports the intelligence community worldwide. You will find variations of us throughout the world, all working behind the scenes, supporting those we deem worthy of our help. Reinette looked at Lexie as she spoke. Your parents were approached shortly after they came to France. We offered them our assistance, and they accepted. What kind of assistance did you offer them? Betty asked quickly, interrupting her rudely. Nothing that would have caused them to betray their country, I assure you. There is no need to worry. They did not work for us. In the case of her parents, we merely offered them the use of our secure banking services. Reinette continued without hesitation. We knew what they were here for and supported their actions. Then, when they discovered that there was something more going on, they kindly informed us. What they discovered was something we have been fighting for over 80 years now. I believe they have everything about it in these files. It is truly a good thing that they did not manage to get their hands on them. For while they know that we know about them, the extent of our knowledge is believed to still be unknown. Betty tapped a finger on one of the folders. What does any of that have to do with us being followed the entire time we've been in France? Jay wondered, irritated at the amount of doublespeak going on. She was saying a lot without really saying anything. That is what I am getting to. The man you call Pierre wanted this information. He knew that you could lead him to it. Whether that meant you did it voluntarily or from his custody, probably meant little to him. She explained. Lexie huffed lightly next to Jay. No, we couldn't have. We didn't even know about this place until we went to Germany. Reinette waved her hand in the air dismissively. Either way, it does not matter now. She tapped the folders in front of her. We need to talk about these. If you read them, you will find out things that will inevitably change your lives. What you have experienced here in France, running for your lives, being unsure of what your next move should be and who you can trust. All of that and more will become your new normal if you read these. You will become privy to a secret that very few people know about. One that nearly all who do will kill to ensure it remains that way. Think about what you want to do, what you are prepared to have change before you read them. Either way, I would like them to remain here in one of your boxes, where they can be properly guarded. If you are going to read them, it will need to be before you leave. Miss, the police have arrived. A voice interrupted them, coming from the intercom system. Reinette picked up her phone. All right, show them around and let me know if I am needed. She replied quickly before setting the phone back down. We don't know when we are leaving yet, so that won't be an issue, Lexie said as she stood, taking control of the conversation. If you will excuse us for now, it seems there is a lot the two of us need to discuss in private. Please do carry on while we are gone. She tilted her head at Betty with a smirk. It was her version of petty payback for how the woman had treated them outside the train station before. Reinette stood from her desk but remained where she was. I must ask that you please remain in the bank while you talk. They may be gone for now, however, there also may be others. It would be best if you were someplace where we can keep you safe. We understand, Jay said as he took Lexie's hand in his. And don't worry, we'll stay in the bank. I assume there is a conference room of some kind in this building. We'll just be in there. Reinette nodded at his assumption and sat down as they opened the door and left. They followed a guard, who led them to the conference room and then left them to talk in private. What do you want to do? Jay asked Lexie as they sat across from each other at a table that filled most of the room. She reclined in her chair and looked at the ceiling, choosing her words carefully before answering. We've come this far, and the reason that my parents were killed is right in front of me. I want to continue. I want to find out what was so important that they decided to stay in France. That said, Reinette made it clear that doing so will forever change our lives and put us in danger. I don't know whether she was exaggerating or trying to frighten us, but we would be stupid to not at least consider it as the truth. I won't ask you to do that for me. Lexie informed him, looking him in the eye at last. Jay sighed and maintained the eye contact in turn. You forget that my father, my birth father that is, seems to also be involved in whatever this is. There is a growing part of me that wants to meet him and talk to him. Knowing why he had me stay with your family as a child will allow greater freedom in how we talk with one another. Besides, I wouldn't let you put yourself in danger alone anyway. He finished nonchalantly, though Lexie noticed the slight tremble in his hands as he spoke. Are you sure about this, Jay? You don't have to do this for me, you know that, right? Lexie asked, worried about him. I'd be lying if I said that you weren't a large part of the reason that I'm agreeing to do this. There is more than that, though. I want to understand what is going on. I know that whatever it is bigger than us, but maybe we can do something to help. It's not like I was doing anything back home, anyway. I was taking care of my grandpa and putting my life on hold while I did. You heard what he said before we came to France. He wants me to start living and focus on my future. Jay leaned back in his chair, copying Lexie's earlier move, and stared at the ceiling. I guess I'm thinking that no matter what it means overall, doing this will allow me to start moving forward in life. Lexie stood and moved around the table to stand next to him. Pulling him from his chair, she held his face level with hers and looked deep into his eyes. Seeing that gaze was as clear and determined as ever, she let him go and stepped back. All right, I understand. Let's go back and tell Reinette what we have decided. Wait, Jay said, suddenly stopping her from leaving. What did you do with your parents' last will and testament letter earlier? I felt you moving behind me and tried to keep him distracted from whatever you were doing. Lexie smiled and patted the pocket of her pants. I have them right here. No way was I going to let him have it. Jay laughed. Good, I had hoped that was the case. It would probably be best if you keep them hidden for now. Reinette might make you leave them here with everything else otherwise. Lexie tilted her head to the side and nodded thoughtfully. You're right. Let us keep them to ourselves for now. Now let us go find out what was so important that we will probably die just for knowing it. Lexie's voice was light, but her eyes betrayed her real emotions. Jay pulled her to him quickly before letting her go. I'll be here with you no matter what. Just remember that. Opening the door, he held it open for her as she walked ahead of him. Lexie nodded to the guard who stood outside Reinette's door before she knocked. A muffled enter was heard, and Lexie opened the door. They saw Betty still seated and handcuffed, with Reinette behind her desk. It didn't appear as though either had moved at all while they were gone. Good, you are back already. I was expecting you to be talking for longer. Reinette exclaimed, surprised that they had finished so quickly. We made our decision quickly. When it came down to it, there wasn't much to say on the matter. Jay told them as they sat in the same chairs as before. And just what have the two of you decided to do? Reinette asked, curious as to what the two had decided after such a short discussion. Before any of that, now that the two of us are also done talking, can someone take these cuffs off me already? Betty implored, shaking her hands angrily. Reinette looked at her without speaking or moving for a moment. Oh, I was not aware that we were finished talking yet. In fact, I still have not decided just what to do with you. For now, I think you should just sit there quietly and hope I forget that you exist. Betty dropped her arms in defeat and said nothing as she sulked quietly, doing as Reinette had told her. Now, as I was asking earlier, what have you decided? Reinette continued, focusing on them. We want to know everything. We want to know what was so important that our parents made the decisions they did. Jay said firmly. Reinette's eye twitched at Jay's wording. She could worry about finding out who his parents were later. It was more important to continue the immediate discussion. And you are all right with everything that will come with knowing? Reinette probed them, making sure they were prepared for what was to come. All right with it, no. We are not all right with it, but we are prepared for it. We know that our decision here today is going to change our lives. Honestly, after everything that has already happened, I think it would have changed regardless of what we decided. Pierre got away. I don't think that he will forget us after this, and since you were able to recover what he took, he probably assumes we know something anyway. Jay explained to her, leaning forward as he did so. Even if we just went back home to the States and tried to forget everything that has happened. Do you really think that he would? Reinette rested her elbows on her desk, hiding her mouth behind clasped hands. Honestly. No, I do not think he would. I was willing to let you make that gamble, however, if you did not realize that. Once you know what is in these files, there are certain things that I can do for you to help you stay safe. Among those is offering you protection and a job. Training as well, though from what Betty has told me about your movements thus far, you are already well on your way.